Happy New Year, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our first podcast of 2022 in the ANTOR series celebrating their 70th anniversary. It's great fun this year to try the new trend of having a camera podcast. I'm not too sure how that's going to work, but we're going to give it a go. And if it doesn't work, you will probably see that we turn it into a radio podcast only. My guest today is Sharon Bershadsky, also known as Ehrlich, which is how I know her mostly, so I'm going to use both names, who is the director of the Israel Government Tourist Office in the UK. And we're going to have a little chat about Sharon's career, what the Israel Government Tourist Office is up to at the moment, and how things are progressing. I like to say post-COVID, just being optimistic. So let's start off with ANTOR. Sharon, you've been a member now for couple of years, I believe, maybe 3, if my memory serves me right, and Israel's been a member for many years, on and off over the past. So what do you see as the main benefits of being a member of ANTOR?
So first of all, Alison, thank you so much for having me, and we'll talk about it maybe a bit more later, but it's such a special week for us because we're finally reopening the country post-COVID, call it however you would like. I think we still have some challenges, but again, we'll speak about it later. I was actually very proud. After many years, Israel had been in ANTOR. There was a pause of a few years, and during my work here, I was very proud to bring it back. I saw it as something super useful in general, but more especially, in this unprecedented time, when the travel industry suffers so much. So ANTOR community was really like a family for me, for my team here, and it managed to do something that maybe no other organization managed to do. It was like a home, like for us, where we could see one another, the directors, and to consult and to hear what's going on in this destination, what's going on in that destination. There was the place to go once a week. We had the Zoom calls for like a year or so, and I was looking forward for this. And even in a non-COVID time, I don't really, know what's going on with other destinations sometimes. And it's great to know we're on the same boat with some things, or to get inspirations from some other destinations, get to know the other directors. So it gave us quite a lot. And also with the wonderful events that is being organized to meet through ANTOR, the travel industry and the media as an ANTOR member, it's important to us a great deal.
Yeah, and thank you again, Sharon, for all your support, because Israel has been very proactive despite COVID over the whole period, over the whole last 2 years, and joining us with our virtual events. And yeah, both you and Michelle have been great fun during those events, so thank you. And talking about structures and various organizations and how we've all coped with COVID and how we're coping moving forward, we're obviously a very small structure as an organization and a not-for-profit association. What's your structure like in the UK as Israel, and how does that fit into your head office? Do you have a lot of support that's based in head office rather than in the UK, or is it the other way around?
So I am the director of the office here in the UK. We are 5 employees here in the small office in the UK. We are independent, so we're not part of the embassy actually. And it was important to us because we're dealing in one wonderful, great part that belong to Israel and travel. It was important to us to stay independent, and it's similar to that in other offices we have around the world. Our HQ located in Jerusalem, and there's several of desks: European desk, America desk, Asia desk. I belong to the European desk, and above all of it is the overseas department under the marketing administration. and everything under the umbrella of the Israel Ministry of Tourism. So this is how it goes. We have about 20 offices abroad. Some of them have people that came from Israel, like myself. I arrived 5 years ago. Some of them have local employees running the local offices. Some of them are agencies.
So that's really interesting. And actually, Sharon, you're not the only one that has 5 employees. That seems to be becoming the average number of staff in the UK for the most destinations nowadays, except for people like Spain or France, who are obviously our main destinations. And I think the great thing about travel and tourism is it crosses all borders, whether it's political, whether it's peace, whatever borders are out there for other issues, travel and tourism manages to cross all borders and put everything behind us, which I think is really fantastic for every destination, wherever you are.
I agree. That's why I think I have one of the best jobs in the world.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
Absolutely, I'd agree with you. And what a fabulous destination as well to be promoting. So you mentioned that you came to the UK roughly 5 years ago. What were you doing before that? Were you still with the Israel Government Tourist Office, or were you doing something completely different?
So I came to London it was my first post. I came with my husband and a big dog and a small baby. He was 4 months old, now he's 5, and I have another one, he's 3 years old. And I actually I did some public work after university, and then I joined the office in 2014 through a cadet course. So I joined in a cadet course. It was short, it was 3 months. And then after doing some work in the HQ in Jerusalem, in the European department. And I also did some work in our DG office, and I managed the flight directives that we have, managing the connection with the airlines. So it was very, very interesting, and it prepared me for the work here in the UK. There was a tender, and I won this post, basically, and after a short while I joined here, and like I said before, I think I won the jackpot, because it's truly, although with COVID and everything, it's such an interesting and challenging job to do, and I really appreciate every moment I'm doing it.
That's fantastic. It's lovely to do something that you enjoy, isn't it? I feel very sorry for anybody that gets up in the morning and thinks, oh, I really don't want to go to work. It's time to change jobs on that occasion.
No, don't get me wrong. I have those days, definitely, especially with COVID and budget issues. Like, at the end of the day, I'm a government employee, and it has its challenges. But at the end of the day, I see the work that I do as a true, my calling, and I love doing it.
It's fantastic. I'm sure we'll see you as Minister of Tourism in the future, Sharon. And what changes have you witnessed, other than obviously the COVID process and everything that has kicked up to us? What other changes have you witnessed during your time in the UK as head of the UK office?
The work that we have been doing in the UK, even before my time, it started to change with the director before me. It was a lot around the Jewish community, somewhat about also the Christian community, which is very, very important to us. But the goal was, in all of our offices around the world, but I can see it clearly in the UK, to reach more and more audiences, to reach the general audience, to make the I sometimes say it, make the Israel product on the shelves of the tour operators more common, to normalize our destination as just like another travel tourism destination, because of sometimes the news, specifically here in the UK, people, it's not their first thought, oh, where should I go to holiday? To Israel. And it surprised them. And by the way, every journalist that I send to Israel, every tour operator, every agent come back and it's like, oh my God, I never expected Israel to be so, amazing and rich and great food and great weather, da, 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 da. So I know I'm confident when I send the people there, but it just bring this message across more audiences, more broad audiences, to realize this is us. It's been a challenge, and we've been working on that more and more. A few years ago, a bit after I joined, we started the 2 cities, 1 break campaign to get people know a bit more about Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. So by introducing more and more products, we try to reach a broader audience, and I think we managed to do it. We had like we broke a record in 2019, the whole ministry, but also the UK. We had more than 200,000 tourists coming from the UK, and it looked good. And then COVID happened, basically. But this was our goal: more products and more people to reach, because Israel is unique, and we have niche points and some great things to do for specific audiences, but it wasn't enough. We wanted obviously more.
But you've certainly put Tel Aviv on the map as a great city break. I've had a lot of good feedback about that. And also some of your more leisure type products have come out as well. I was actually genuinely surprised when some of the consumer research that came out during and post-COVID was showing that Israel is one of the top 10 destinations in certain areas to visit. So well done you for achieving that. And coming on to COVID, and you mentioned very briefly at the beginning of this conversation, we are, of course, in the UK very excited at the lifting of all the restrictions that have happened in the past 10 days, I guess, since the new year. The cost of travel abroad now has become much lower because we don't need a test to leave the country. We only need a lateral flow test from majority of countries to re-enter the country. And as long as that's negative within 2 days, we don't even have to have a PCR test. So that's really reducing costs to roughly, I don't know, £35 on our side from what was nearly 200. So how's it going with you? If I come to Israel tomorrow, do I need to have any extra tests before I come?
So Israel, I think from day one, even regardless of COVID, we've taken health and safety very, very seriously. We closed the country basically from March 20 till it was November. It was WTM when we officially opened the country, and then we closed again, and then we just opened it again yesterday. So it's very hard to just release everything in one go, as you can imagine. But at the moment to come into Israel, there's no red country, so basically every tourist around the globe welcome to come, as long as he's fully vaccinated. And when we say fully, we need to make sure there has been not more than 180 days since the second jab. So it means if it has been, you must be received the booster jab as well, and you need to prove it with the NHS app and the barcode, like many other destinations have this procedure. And after landing in Israel, we're asking also a short information, like a locator form before you coming into Israel, a PCR test, and do another PCR test when you land in Ben Gurion Airport. At least it's something very, very easy to do because you pre-book it, you prepay it. It's pretty cheap, actually. It's about, I think, £20. You do the PCR in the airport, you go to your hotel room, and you wait there until there's a negative answer. That's the procedure. And whoever filling the information for the let's call it a local form, and we check everything is okay with the vaccination, automatically the tourists get the green pass, which we have in Israel nowadays to enter places, restaurants, museums. So as you can see, it sounds a bit tricky, but it's not that challenging. It's a PCR and a short form before, another PCR after you land at the airport, and just waiting for a negative results. All of this just to secure, the health and safety of our citizens and of our tourists. I hope the situation will be resolving in the next few weeks, months, but no more than that. as you said, it's making the package or the holiday more expensive and more challenging to everyone. But again, health and safety first, it always has been on the top of the priority of Israel, and it will continue to be, as long as we have COVID or a different situation, we're there and dealing with it, even with the price of, again, making the holiday more expensive or more challenging. But this is something we feel we have to do.
And how long does it usually take to get the result in the hotel room? How long are you usually?
It's usually a few hours, but not more than 24 hours. Even if something is the matter, you can release after 24 hours anyway. But from what I heard and know, like also speaking with people, but also from like official sources, it shouldn't take more than a few hours.
What happens if you test positive?
If you test positive, you have to quarantine in a special COVID hotels. Usually what tourists do is they're making sure their insurance cover the situation, and they have to stay in the hotel until there have been a few days. I think it's 10. Again, it's very challenging to know all the recent information. We only opened yesterday, but I believe it's 10 days, and you have to isolate because you don't want to allow otherwise, obviously.
Yeah. Great. And so what are your plans and Israel's plans for the sort of next 5, well, let's say 3 years? It's very difficult to think of 5, 10, 15 unless you do have a long-term plan at the moment. Are there any exciting new developments coming up on the horizon?
Interestingly enough, even with COVID times, we took this timing and to work on the infrastructure in Israel for the benefits of Israelis and for tourists. So, for example, we made the old city in Jerusalem more accessible. We developed the products in the north of the country and also in the south, where the desert, the Negev desert is, because there's a lot of interest recently around the desert area that's surrounding Eilat. There's been a few new hotels that opened or that started construction, and we're expecting the Kempinski set to open early 2022, and there's a few more international chains that came to Israel. So all of it is very exciting, and it matched our plans, obviously, to come back to the records that we had in 2019, and even double this amount of the number of tourists that will be coming in the next 5 years. The first goal, obviously, to return the to increase the traveler confidence, to bring back the individuals and the group that booked Israel on their plan way back then in 2020, bring everyone back, bring the numbers back to post-pandemic level, 2019 and beginning of 2020. We saw good numbers back then as well. And to slowly doing what we're doing best is just to tell our story, show our pictures, our videos, and just show Israel as it is. And I'm sure, post-pandemic, everything will calm down. We'll see the numbers, the tourists coming back again. And we used to have this slogan, Israel, once in a lifetime destination. And when we told ourselves, it's great to be once in a lifetime, like at least once in your lifetime, you have to go to Israel. Everyone want to see Jerusalem and the old city and Tel Aviv and to float in the Dead Sea, which is great. But for us, we realized it doesn't have to be once in a lifetime. We want people to come now and see them and not wait to, maybe they're 60, 70, 80, say, one day I'll go to Israel. Come now, enjoy, even if it's for a few days, and you will want to come back. And it's important to us also to, this messaging also to increase the number, increase them now, because we want we want to help the travel industry that has suffered in Israel a great deal, maybe more than other destinations. The hotels have been, closed and receiving only Israeli tourists, and the periphery that count on many foreign travelers. Many attractions had to shut for a long time, and we want to see the tourists come back and buying the little shop in the market in Nazareth and going to the small boutique hotel in Haifa, or the Bedouin hosting in the Negev. We want to see the tourists coming back, not even just for one time, returning again and again, because you really see we're a tiny country, like in the size of Wales, but we have so much to offer, and we're going to fight for it.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure we'll see those 200,000 people coming back in their droves as soon as they can. So well done, Sharon. It's been great talking to you. Well done to your team. And we look forward to continuing our wonderful relationship with you as ANTOR for many years to come. So thank you very much for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.